Hi guys, today it's time for another gouache painting tutorial. I wanted to show you something a little bit different this month, so I chose this Japanese garden inspired painting with some hanging flowers and this black framed window. This painting will teach you how to paint leaves, and I'll also show you a very easy method to create these black details without using a brush or black paint. But now let's just get started, and I'm painting to my trusty watercolor sketchbook today, but really any watercolor paper would work for this purpose, especially if you're also using gouache paints. And then to prepare our canvas here, I covered the edges of the page with some washi tape so we'll get clean shapes for the final picture. But after we have the page ready to go, I'm gonna add some different tones of green, yellow and black to my painting palette. If you don't have these different cream paints ready to go, you can always mix yellow with different blue tones to create some bright forest green shades. Then I used 3 different brushes in this video, and we're gonna get started with the bigger flat brush that will be perfect to create a dark wash for the background. The background doesn't need to be perfect here by any means because we're gonna cover most of it anyways, especially from the center and top part. So I was just using this really dark green tone which will make the details really stand out in the end. But I feel like I say this every time, but I think I could have gone with a slightly lighter tone here as well. I think my problem is that my studio lights are quite bright when I paint these, so sometimes when I turn them off I realize that the colors are actually much darker than I thought. But the window frame we're gonna add there later. But it also should be dark enough so that the leaves will stand out from it and not kinda blend together with the background. I think a flat brush is the best for just some heavy background layers like this, and you also want to use a fairly small amount of water so that you won't get any bold spots. If that happens though, you can always add a second layer after letting the first one dry a bit, and that will give you a more opaque end result. I had to do that here as well because the paper was kind of peeking through from some areas here. Anyway, now we have this super dark layer here, we'll let it completely dry and then start to work with the window. I wanted to go for this circle shape, and you can create a much cleaner shape by just using some random circle object you have at home, like a roll of tape or a drinking glass would also work really well for this purpose. And I also drew out the edges of the window here because I wanted those to have a lighter, almost that thin paper window-like appearance. And then in the center we will have a view to some sort of green garden. But after just sketching the shapes out with a pencil, we can start to work with these lighter green colors here. Honestly, I think you don't really need to focus too much on this part because most of it will be covered later with the green leaves. So I just added some lighter green shapes here, maybe trying to resemble some sort of tree branch. I mainly use these tapping motions that often work the best with gouache paints and try to keep the colors much lighter and brighter than we did with the background. And then I also added this lighter, almost bluish layer to the sides. I know everything might look a little bit weird and messy in this point. I personally find blending the most difficult thing with gouache paints. I feel like they always end up looking more or less patchy or textured, but I promise that adding the window frame and the final flowers will literally transform everything here and hide most of the unevenness. But yeah, now we are ready to actually draw the black shapes, and I just used a black marker for this purpose. You could of course use black gouache paint as well, but I usually find it so difficult to create any even shapes with a brush and paint. So I just decided to avoid that and use this easier cheating method. I also used a ruler because I wanted these lines to be as symmetrical as possible. I think having these lines super straight and clean is definitely one of the key points to this whole painting. And if this part here looks clean, I think it will save a lot of the messiness on the painting parts. But then after that we can jump to the last part of this illustration, which are the hanging leaves and flowers. For this, I recommend layering a few different tones of green. So I kind of started with this medium green color here, and then adding some darker and lighter leaves later will really make this look more interesting and dimensional. I went with this kind of specific shape for the leaves. I was looking through some pictures for reference, and I decided to create these groups of 3 leaves. I also wanted them to be quite pointy, but again, adding some variation is definitely a good thing. So maybe somewhere they can be a little bit more round, or you can just paint one leaf and break and play with the shapes, sizes and directions a little bit as well. I wanted this one branch to hang much lower in the picture, and it was a little bit more difficult to make the leaves stand out against the window, but adding some really dark and really light leaves there will help you to tell these leaves apart from the garden background. But then the last step is to add some white flowers, special, so I just went with these really thick layers of white paint and just kind of tried to create some circle shapes. Again, I think it will look really nice if some of these are a little bit bigger and some are smaller. And you can also kind of group them together on some areas. I think that always gives a little bit more realistic look than keeping the flowers very symmetrical. But after you have added as much flowers as you like, you can kind of see if there are still some areas that would benefit from some more leaves. I also added some black to the top part, kind of between some of these leaves, and then I just painted some of these really bright, almost yellow leaves that will again add some dimension and contrast to the picture. But I think after that we're finally done with this painting. This was actually my second attempt on this picture. On the first one I had a different shape for the window and I didn't really like that, and on top of that I also accidentally deleted some of the footage, so I hope also you like this second version better. Definitely give this one a go if you're looking for some different ideas to paint. Love to see your paintings. But anyway, I think that's it for this time. Thank you guys so much for watching. If this was your first time around here, please consider subscribing for more art videos. But other than that, I hope you guys are having an amazing day or night wherever you are, and see you in my next one. Bye bye!